sin a rá rís. Tá mid an seo an nniu the Gheolú Leabhar Kapheus Fire. And when aimed in an an sin astrú go béirla. And when aimed in an sin a rá in méirla. Tá mid an seo an nniu the Gheolú Leabhar Kapheus Fire. Anyone? What? We're here today to watch what Kapheus Fire. Jeez, excuse me, you were born a genius, Douglas. Stand up. I have ever met, and never once did he begrudge giving something to the friend. Isn't that nice to share? Yeah. I think that's a really nice thing, and I think he's a really good boy. What do you think? Yeah. And I think we should all give him a bull of us. It's never, if you remember this, guys, if you remember this thing about life, it's never what you have, it's what you do with what you have that's most important. Okay? And Garrod showed kindness. He had intelligence, and he could have been selfish, but with his intelligence, he showed kindness and he shared. And that's really, really important. It's not what you have, it's what you do with what you have. Okay? Tommy John Shaw and you, the Gheolú Leabhar Kapheus Fire. We're here today for the book launch of Kapheus Fire. Well done. What a Gheolú Leabhar? Book launch. Gheolú Leabhar? Book launch. Gheolú Leabhar? Book launch. Gheolú Leabhar? Book launch. Please, okay. Go on, Mom. Okay. So what I'm going to divide this in two ways, okay? I'm going to first read a little bit from the book, just about a page and a half, and then I'm going to look for actors. Are there many actors? Don't renege on your deal now. We have a deal. Cueness, yeah? What's the deal? Be as quiet as you can, and I'll ask the principal if you can get no homework. Okay? How's that sound? No, I'm not asking for actors yet. I'll ask you in 2 minutes, okay? I'll just do this first. Okay, so I'm going to read the first page of this book, okay? Alright, are you ready? He breathed heavily as he slowly trudged uphill, supported by the large hawthorn stick in his right hand. He tucked the collar of his long brown waxed coat tightly against his cold neck and turned. Here, does somebody want to act this out while I'm reading? Yeah. So I'm going to read it and you're going to act it out, okay? You ready? You ready? I think you're brilliant. I think you're brilliant. Go on. Okay. He breathed heavily as he slowly trudged uphill, supported by the large hawthorn stick on his right hand. He took the collar of his long brown waxed coat tightly against his cold neck and turned the wide brim of his brown hat downwards to shelter his face from the cold, sharp breeze that swept across the land. Although the new year had dawned with the promise of a new spring, it brought with it a chilling wind that cut through the land of Kapheus that morning. The man coughed a couple of times, and this simple distraction caused him to slip on a stony outcrop. He dove his hawthorn stick into the earth and gripped it tightly to save himself from falling. Oh, come on. Oh, he rolled. Again he spotted. He kicked the muck off his brown leather boots and, good man, and walked on. High up on the barren hills where only goats and wild animals survived stood a cottage that was unlike any other in Kapheus. It was a modest home, yet it was distinguishable by the unusually large round granite stones used to build it. The land was grey and the mountains were grey, but the stone of this cottage was beige in colour, with glistening flecks of silver mica embedded in it. It was a warm and inviting home with large red-silled rectangular windows that overlooked the valley to the front, accompanied by smaller windows at its gable end that provided little view of anything in particular. A billow of smoke always rose in unusual fashion from the chimney of its thatched roof, and whomever looked at that smoke was often lulled into a state of peace and tranquility. There was a large rock at the front of the cottage on which the words Le Petit Maison Lefebvre were engraved in gold lettering, and this was something that no other cottage in Kapheus had. The man had almost reached his home when he stopped and bent down. He pulled his woolen gloves off, and with one hand that seemed as large as a shovel to the little leveret, he pulled back the stone and lifted her up. What's a leveret? What's a leveret? A leveret?
Is it like that thing in the grave where it has like...
No, well, you're all going out in a dark place. A leveret is a baby hair. Yeah. Okay, are you ready? We keep going? There now, shh, he said, your struggle is over. The leveret stopped shaking. She looked upwards. You know, our lives are forever linked now that we've met, he said. He pulled a twig from his pocket and broke it in two, placing one piece on each side of the leveret's leg. The man then tore a strip from his handkerchief and used it to tighten the splint, and as soon as he was finished, he laid her down on the hillside next to a tuft of grass. It'll be a bit awkward in the beginning, he said, releasing her from his grip. He chuckled as he recalled the time he mended the leveret's mother's leg on that very spot, when it was caught under that same stone. He picked up the stone and shoved it into his large coat pocket. Take your time, he said, pulling his gloves back on. By the time you chewed your way through that bandage, your leg will be just about right. The young leveret, however, couldn't understand why this man had saved her only to cause her such struggle. With great difficulty, she gathered her leg under her body and began a number of awkward attempts to hop home. The sky turned dark and the wind changed direction all of a sudden. When the man looked over his shoulder, he saw a large and menacing black cloud rolling over the distant mountain range and moving towards him at a fast pace. Lightning flashed inside the cloud and he grew afraid. Hurry, hurry! Get to your mother, he whispered to the leveret. He sounded a sharp three-stepped whistle and the hare appeared. Hurry, he insisted. The hare grasped her leveret by the neck and fled. The man pulled himself to his feet and ran to the door of the cottage, quickly opened it and slammed the door shut. He dropped the large wooden latch across the inside of the door and crossed the inside of the door. Dampen the fire, he called to his wife while he rushed to close the window shutters. What's wrong, Micah? Is someone after you? Rose replied. The darkness is coming. I saw it over the far hills. It's dawn, I'm sure of it. Wait! What time is it? Rose asked, frantically grabbing hold of the one remaining lighting candle. Is it time? What time is it? Whose fate is at stake? Whose life is the darkness trying to quench? she asked desperately, searching the clock faces. Although this cottage seemed small from the outside, it was in fact larger than one would believe within. Every available space, from tabletops to mantelpiece to countertops to walls, were filled with wooden clocks, each exquisitely carved from the finest pieces of wood and in the shape of miniature houses. Rose hurriedly searched each clock face for an answer to her question of whose fate was at stake. She looked through the tiny windows of each little clock in the house, but Rose could only see children playing with toys, an old man, a woman mending the socks, and a child being cradled in her mother's arms. There was nothing unusual. She looked carefully to see who may be sick or frail, and if the person was the light the darkness sought to quench. Whose life is it? Rose asked. It's coming, Micah called. It's crossing the valley now. Quench the fire, Micah. Rose rolled her chair onto a ramp and locked it in place. She held onto one of the railings and pushed down on the large wooden lever. An intricate mechanism of wheels, weights, springs and spindles engaged to transport Rose to the next level of her cottage. She rolled off the ramp and along the path made especially for her. Rose, Micah called, but she ignored him. The pendulum swung over and back to the smoothness of time as Rose searched inside those little houses. Each one had a story to tell, of love and loss, of triumph and defeat, but none had the story of impending death. Then a thought came over Rose, and it was the most serious of thoughts. Her face turned ashen. Listen, can you hear the pendulum swing in Era? In the house of Liza and Jamie. Yes, can you hear it? Shh, they're here, Micah said. Rose quenched her candle and they both fell silent. Now I don't